بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمد ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد. Firstly, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with Iman, and we praise Allah ta'ala for blessing us with Islam, and we praise Allah Jalla Majdahu for making us from the ummah of Nabi Akram sallallahu ta'ala alayhi salatu wasalam. In tonight's discussion, which is part 6, we are discussing the wisdom of actions, and tonight we start a new discussion concerning the shi'ar of Allah. What is the shi'ar of Allah? And then the importance of the shi'ar of Allah. What are the shi'ar of Allah? And what form does the shi'ar of Allah assume? Then we can explain later on that why we have to respect and honor and love and revere, defend the shi'ar of Allah. Obviously, we have to start from the very basic, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the shi'ar of Allah in about 4 verses, Inna Safa wal Marwa min sha'irillah. In Surah Baqarah, verse 158, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that Mount Safa and Marwa are both amongst the shi'ar of Allah. I'm using this word shi'ar. I will explain very shortly what we mean by shi'ar. Then in Surah Hajj, verse 36, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states about the large sacrificial animals are also amongst the shi'ar of Allah. Because when the Hujjaj should make Hajj, they should demarcate, specify, earmark the large sacrificial animals, so that people knew now these animals are going to be sacrificed for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in the 2nd verse of Surah Maidah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exhorts the mu'mineen to never show disrespect to the shi'ar of Allah. And fourthly, in Surah Hajj, verse 32, it is evident that it is the fear for Allah in people's hearts that makes them honor the shi'ar of Allah. وَمَن يُعَزِّمْ شَائِرِ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَةِ الْقُلُوبِ. That those who got fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are the ones who respect and honor the shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَن يُعَزِّمْ شَائِرِ اللَّهِ. Whosoever respects and honors the shi'ar of Allah, in that person is the fear of Allah. And obviously the person who has got the fear of Allah is the one close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that when we discuss about levels of piety, that these levels of piety and levels of the soul pass through tawbah, haya, zuhud, abstinence, and then finally the overriding fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the last stage of the purification of the soul, or he's talking of the last stage of the purged and purified soul, that the one who may yu'azzim sha'irillah, the one who has got the ability, potentiality, and the one who is respecting the shi'ar of Allah, who is honoring the shi'ar of Allah. Many times we are at a complete loss. we do not know whether this person is pious or not pious, whether that person fears Allah or not, whether that person, he claims that he is pious. Is he really pious? That person, how do we determine whether he is one close to Allah or not? How do we determine whether that person has got proximity to Allah or not? Because these days we judge obviously by the external. And if a person looks like a good Muslim, we classify him good Muslim. And if a person looks like a transgressing fellow, we classify him thus. But the real one who has got fear of Allah, and the real one who has got proximity to Allah, he is the one who honors and respects the shiar of Allah. And this word shiar is the plural of the word sha'ira or sha'ira, which literally means a sign, a symbol, and technically it refers to a sign denoting the specific thing that it has been assigned to. For example, the minaret is a sign denoting a masjid, and the beard is a sign of a Muslim, much like a part of his uniform. In a like manner, the signs of Allah, those special acts, commandments and places and things by which the deen of Islam is recognized and identified. So, the sign is a symbol, it's a characteristic, it is a method of determination, and it is something denoting the existence of something else. When you find, obviously, the minaret, then you know that this is a masjid. And you'll find this in all religions. When you look at the cross, you know this is Christianity. And when you look at a particular shape of a structure, you know that is a synagogue. And when you look at a particular shape and all the idols around, you know that is a temple. So every religion has got their own signs which denote and demarcates and classifies them. We Muslims have got also these signs, and these signs are the special acts and the commands and places and things which the deen of Islam is recognized by and identified with. And we have got special way of making ibadat, salat. Of Hajj is a special sign. And if you look at our places, our masjids, our madrasas, our graveyards, our awqaf properties, our darulooms, our Quranic Kareem and institutes of learning. So every thing in Islam which it denotes, automatically when you look at it, you will feel that that is a sign of a Muslim, and that can be nothing else but in relationship to Islam only. For example, to make this easier, that if you find a person with a hat and a beard and a kurta and a turban, then you automatically know that that's a Muslim. And you know, when you see someone standing, going in ruku and going into sijda, making two sijdas, you know that is Muslim. When you see someone covered head to toe, then obviously you know that is a Muslim woman. And when you hear the call of adhan, then you know that there is a masjid, Jamaat Khana, nearby, and that is the signaling they call for salah. So, alhamdulillah, now we are coming to know that there are certain things, certain symbols which are linked. For example, now if you hear the ringing of bells and hooting and clapping and dancing, you know definitely that that cannot be Islam. If you hear the singing and with the guitars and band, etc., you know this is not a sign of Islam. And if you see someone jumping and jiving and half naked, you know this is no sign of Islam. And if you see a procession and that procession has got ringing of bells and dancing and music and carrying of items, etc., you know this is not a sign of Islam. This pertains to other cultures, other civilizations. Like in Singapore, when we were there, we saw one procession and they were beating the drums and huge drums, a deafening sound. We come to realize that this was a particular religious group and going out to the streets in a parade. So the religions have got their signs, and you'll see certain religious groups that they do not have any hair on their head, but they have got a strand of hair coming out from the center portion of their head. Now they automatically, you look at them, you know, this is a particular religion and this is their symbol of their religion. And they are holding to it and steadfast on it. You give them any amount of money, they will not take that strand of hair off their head. But unfortunately, Muslim of today, you don't even have to pay him, but he massacres his beard. You don't have to tell him anything, he butchers his beard out. And you don't have to tell him anything, he will discard, unfortunately, the signs and the shiar of Islam. You'll find that in one area that a certain group, they'll wear a certain color, maybe yellow or saffron. You know as soon as you see them that this group, it belongs to a certain denomination and a certain religion, a culture, and a certain civilization. And you'll find in other areas that they will have, whilst walking around, they will be carrying certain things or wearing certain things. So this is particular for them. Or they will have a mark on their forehead or a dot on their forehead, or their ladies will part their hair in a particular manner with certain color on their head. Or they will wear certain things on their wrist, a certain band, etc. So these are their shiar, their signs, their symbols. What I am trying to explain, that the concept of a sign, a concept of a symbol, concept of a characteristic, like if you study the Sikh religion, then they have also got certain signs. And it is written in their books, and when you see them, you also find that they do not cut their hair. And they will have like buns, the men I'm talking about, buns on their head. And covering them is a thin cloth. That is one of their signs. And covering that, they've got like a turban. And the turban is in a particular style and manner. It does not resemble the turban which we Muslims wear. Then they will carry either a small sword or a large sword. These are their signs. And they will carry with them an instrument which they cleanse their mouths with in the morning. And they also will carry a small metal instrument which they scratch themselves with. So all these things which I have mentioned is their signs, is their symbol, and is their characteristics. In Islam we have got ours. And this is what we are going to be discussing, that what are our signs, our chief signs, and what those signs lead up to. And the principle is that when we respect these signs, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respect us and honor us, and that's a sign of piety and righteousness, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated this principle in the Quran Kareem in Surah Hajj in verse 32, that whosoever honors the signs of Allah, whosoever respects the signs of Allah, then that denotes, and that is a sign that person has got piety in the heart. That person has got fear of Allah in the heart. That person has got closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Shah Waliullah Delvi Rahmatullah alayhi, he says clearly in Hujjatullah al-Baligha that the signs of Allah, the hallmarks of a Muslim, they are four. That is the Quran, the Kaaba, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, generally Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and with special reference to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Salah. Now whosoever, broadly speaking, we are going to go in details with this, that whosoever loves and honors and respects the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam, with special reference to Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Salah, they are those who have got taqwa in their hearts. They are the ones who have got piety in their hearts. They are the ones who have got proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this solves many difficulties for us, because every other person walking around who claims to be having piety and righteousness, but in reality is very far away from piety and righteousness, because they do not respect and honor the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and Salah. And Allah is guiding us, helping us. That's why the deen is easy, Shariat is perfect. We are not at a loss. When we follow the Sharia, the Quran Kareem, and the Sunnah of Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we can never be at a loss. Because the Sharia is telling us, Quran is telling us, that if we honor and respect the shiar of Allah, the Quran, the Kaaba, and Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and Salat, then indeed that is denoting clearly that that person has got taqwa in the heart. And verse 30 of Surah Hajj refers to the shiar of Allah as the hurmat of Allah, the sacred commands of Allah. And what is our responsibility to the sacred commands of Allah is to respect and honor that. These days people claim piety, but they got no regard for Quran, and they disrespect it, talk ill about it. In fact, when they do all that, they go out of the fold of Islam. And the shiar of Allah, when you look carefully, any blasphemous statement against the shiar of Allah will take a person out of the fold of Islam. The shiar of Allah are therefore all those things that Allah has designated to be hallmarks for a Muslim, and also all the commands of Allah. See, the commands of Allah, once Allah has stated it, then it is the Muslim's responsibility to respect, honor, amanna wa sadaqna, that I believe in it and I accept it. When Allah has spoken, we got no right to speak. When Allah has determined and Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam has specified, we as Muslims got no right to question it. We just have to respect it, because it is full of wisdom and philosophy and secrets that we are talking about. But if we do not understand the inner dimensions and the inner meaning, then we still have to respect it and honor it and abide by it. That is the quality of a Muslim, that to believe in Jamia ma jaa bi Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to believe in whatever Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam brought. Because remember, that will make us the Muslim which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires for us. So anything designated to be the hallmark for a Muslim, to be a sign of a Muslim, to be a symbol for a Muslim, to be a characteristic of a Muslim, it is our responsibility that we have to love, respect, honor, defend, protect that. And also the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because this will give us the ability to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise. Now the importance of the shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, honoring and sanctifying the shi'ar of Allah and gaining proximity to Allah via them forms the very basis of divine religion. The shi'ar of Allah found not only in the deen of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but in all the religions of all the Ambiyaa alayhi salam. Now, we have been explaining that other Ambiyaa alayhi salam, they also had their shi'ar. Now, when we carry these out, man gradually becomes angelic in nature and draws closer to perfection. The angels have a special affinity for the shi'ar of Allah, since it is such deeds that they carry out. Remember, all these things which the Muslims carry out and the shi'ars, the malaika, they are happy with it, and they also participate to great extents in it. And when they are imbibed internally to respect and love and practice upon the shi'ar of Allah, then when we Muslims do it and honor it and respect, then we also will gradually become like the malaika and will have angelic qualities in us. See, for example, the malaika of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make tawaf, and they make tawaf of a celestial Kaaba. Above the Kaaba there is a Baytul Izzah, Baytul Ma'mur. If you have to draw a line above the Kaaba, you will get the Baytul Ma'mur, the Baytul Izzah, and this Baytul Ma'mur, this Baytul Izzah, the malaika, 70,000 of them at a time make tawaf of it. And once they have made tawaf of it, they do not make tawaf again. We are so fortunate that we are able to make tawaf and then tawaf and tawaf again without any limitations. And when we make the more tawaf, more reward. And we are so fortunate we have been given opportunity after opportunity to make the tawaf after tawaf. The malaika, it is stated, they make tawaf once in their entire lifetime. After that, they are not given the opportunity to make the tawaf again. But in this discussion, what I want to highlight, see, they are making tawaf. So it is an angelic quality to make tawaf. And when we make this tawaf also, we will be imitating the malaika, the previous Ambiyaa alayhi salam, therefore getting such tremendous rewards. And when we are doing such an action which the previous Ambiyaa alayhi salam have been doing and the malaika are doing, then their qualities come onto mankind. because it is the transfer of positive spiritual energy from the Malaika and the Malaya, the close angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, onto the imitators of the Malaika and the Ambiyaa alayhi salam. For example, Salat, we know that Malaika, they are standing. Some of them are standing. Their duty and responsibility is like how we stand in Salat, their responsibility and duty is like that. And some of them in Ruku, some of them in Sizdah, some of them in Qiyam. So all this is going on. And because it was the posture of the Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and now we can see that, and we learn Malaika also in that posture. So automatically we are imitating and emulating the qualities of the Malaika and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we are getting angelic qualities in us. That is why it is important that we honor the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we have mentioned, that the previous Ambiyaa alayhi salam had their own shiar. And the basic idea is that when we love, respect, honor the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then beastly qualities within mankind are removed and angelic qualities come into mankind. When we honor, respect the shiar, the signs of Allah, the symbols of Allah, the commands of Allah, the injunctions of Allah, the acts which are specific to us Muslims, then angelic qualities are imbibed automatically onto that person, and beastly and satanic qualities are removed. Now, what are the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The shiar of Allah are those apparent and tangible things that Allah has designated as a means for people to be able to worship Him. They are to be sacrificed to such a degree that their sanctity may be seen as Allah's sanctity Himself. Now, to explain that, for example, you will notice that even a sinful Muslim will kiss the Quran and revere it. Should it happen to fall from his hand, he will be extremely sad and remorseful and will seek to make up for that act. This is because reverence for the shiar of Allah has penetrated so deeply into people's heart that it cannot be removed without tearing the heart to pieces. Now, simple example, we can learn the importance of the shiar of Allah and also know what is the importance of respecting the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this example that has been given, that out of mistake sometimes the Quran falls off the hand. You will find even a person who is sinful in nature, but he will start quivering and he will get worried and perspiring that what have I done? Although it happened mistakenly, forgetfully, or by complete mistake, but that person will worry and his heart will start pounding. What have I done here? And then he will automatically rush off to some Maulana and Mufti to find out, what must I do? So the ulama ikram will tell him, obviously, that give some the charity out, a little bit of charity. There was one old ruling which is not logical. They say, no, weigh the Quran and then give out the weight of it in wheat and flour in charity. No, you just give something of your capability and capacity out in charity and makes tawbah, istighfar. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us, inshallah. But similarly, the rule is that we should respect and honor the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why it is not an Indian concept that to put the feet, to face the feet towards the Kaaba. You'll, inshallah, not find someone from the Indian subcontinent or from South Africa, etc., Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Maputo. You will not find us stretching our feet towards the Kaaba. But unfortunately, you will find from other areas of the world, they will put their feet towards the Kaaba and they will not batter an eyelid. They think, okay, what is wrong in this? What is wrong in this? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَمَن يُعَزِّمْ شَعِيرَ اللَّهِ, that whosoever respects and honor the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, that a person will not do things which are normally not done in front of elders, in front of your father or mother. Why? Out of respect. There are those we know who are chain smokers, habitual smokers, and Allah grant them the ability to give it up. But when their elders come in front of them, and the father or mother comes in front of them, then no matter how much they desire to smoke, but out of respect and honor and love for the parent, they do not smoke. And, for example, it is not part of good character. In fact, it is part of immodesty to be vulgar, and especially to be vulgar in the presence of the elders and the seniors and the parents. And this, unfortunately, we are losing also. That you will find in a family gathering, a social gathering, the juniors are absolutely abusive and use vulgar words. Why? Because mannerism, ethics, we have lost. And Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has indicated that the one who loses modesty, haya, and goes down the route of vulgarity, he has not protected his deen and honor. And this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indicating to us, that we should honor the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is where piety and righteousness lies. That is why we kiss the Quran also. And this has been proven in the Sharia. In the authentic books, you will find that Sahaba Ikram radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in did this action, that when they were reading Quran and when they now terminated, they kissed it and after closing it and putting it away. So this is no Indian Islam or Indian culture or Indian civilization or Indian mannerism or Indian method. No, this is substantiated. And logic and rationality also says this, that this is our sacred book, that this is our divine kitab, and we should honor it, and we should love it, and we should honor it by respecting it and holding it dearly. So, now, alhamdulillah, we are coming to know what are the shiar of Allah and what is our attitude towards the shiar of Allah and why we should hold the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as so important. Now the form, what form does the shiar of Allah assume? The shiar of Allah assumes a form that is natural and perfectly suited to people's natural disposition. Because the deen is natural and the deen is easy and the shariat is perfect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated, La yukallahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give a soul a load that the soul cannot carry. Because Allah is our creator, our nourisher, our provider. Allah will ask us to do those things that we can do. Simple example like salah. Allah has made it obligatory upon us 5 times daily because He knows His servant can do this. And because He knows His servant can do this, that's why He has put this on us. He has not asked us to lift up mountains. He has not asked us to do something that we cannot do. But He has given us a shiar that is practical and moderate and easy. And that is the beauty of Islam, that we have been given such a sharia, such a conduct of life, that is a natural disposition and that is easy to understand and to practice. There are things that people are happy to accept and which then becomes accepted norms in society. If you look at the Sharia, how beautiful, how clean, how easy that Allah has told us make salah. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us make salah, then this is a natural thing for a human being to do. And a person doing this, then he is accepted in society. In fact, in a good Muslim society and environment, then a person who does not make salat, he is supposed to be the odd one out. But unfortunately, those who are regular in salat, they are looked, what's happening to this person? Especially if that person is a young person, people will look at him and say that, why is this young person has become so regular in salah? Whereas this is supposed to be the norm in the society, the locality, and in the environment. And Allah has given us this natural deen and sharia so that there is harmony in the society and so that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. And the actions which Allah has given us, there is no misgivings about it, because it is open, manifest, clear, no ulterior, hidden things. When a person, for example, gives off his salah, zakat, and goes for hajj and he fasts and he performs the salah and he respects the Quran and the Kaaba and he loves the Ambiyaa alayhi salam, then there is no hidden agendas concerning this. There is no misgivings about this. Allah's mercy then comes in the form of these things that the people accept without question. And they start to regard these things as binding and compulsory. So the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala evolves in the heart of mankind, in the brain of mankind. And this love develops and this respect manifests. And this honor now comes to such an extent that the person is now feeling, I have to respect the Quran, I have to respect the Kaaba, I have to respect and honor and love the Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and I have to make salah and give it its due respect and honor. So Allah's mercy, He gets into that particular command and act and symbol to such an extent that the people out of their natural disposition begin to get inclined to it and begin by the mercy of Allah to love it and honor it and respect it to such an extent that people automatically and naturally they begin to love it. There is no forceful push from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because of the speciality of the sign, because of the characteristic of the symbol, because of the special qualities of the shiar of Allah, people begin to love it and respect it, and they regard within themselves that I have to now respect it. Because of the speciality of the Quran, because of the special characteristics of the Kaaba, and because of the special, unique qualities of the Ambiyaa alayhi salam and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and because of the beauty of Salah, people automatically are inclined towards loving it, honoring it, respecting it, and also they begin to defend it and defend it with their lives after that. And this happens naturally without any duress, without any force. That is why, alhamdulillah, a normal Muslim who has not made any detailed study, but he has heard some special qualities of Quran and the Kaaba and Ambiyaa alayhi salam and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam and Salah, then an average Muslim will love it and automatically be inclined to respect the Quran and Kaaba, Ambiyaa and Salah. And there'll be no duress on him, no force on him. If you have to interview any Muslim, that do you love the Quran, the Kaaba, and Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Salah, an average, uneducated, illiterate Muslim in the mountains, in the rural area, he will say, my heart has got a special attachment for the Shi'ar of Allah. And he has got no degree and no study behind it. Why? Because these signs have got special charisma and they are magnetic in nature, and they make man inclined to them naturally, automatically. The person begins to love it wherever that person may be. That person will start loving it, and we can relate stories upon stories how, let alone Sahaba Ikram radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, that the Muslims in the past 100 years, how they sacrificed their property, their lives, and their blood, everything in order to defend and uphold the sanctity of the Shi'ar of Allah, the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and Salah. Now when this happened, it is then made compulsory for them to venerate and honor these things, failing which they become liable for chastisement. Now this is an important point, and we will deliberate on this little bit now, but in detail some other time. Because when you love the Shi'ar of Allah, Allah's mercy will come. But when you start failing to venerate and honor the Shi'ar of Allah, then wait for the punishment of Allah. If one speaks ill of the Shi'ar of Allah, the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa and Salah, basically then await the punishment, displeasure, anger, wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now people took oaths in the name of Allah, knowing well that they will be liable for chastisement should they renege on their oath. In keeping with this belief of the people, Allah they made it in a law that kafara be given whenever a person fails to fulfill his oath. Similar other things which are made compulsory according to the existing beliefs and the practices of people. Because of the high status of the Shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has made it such that if a person now takes oath on the Shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of the high status of the Shi'ar of Allah and the high position of the Shi'ar of Allah, then if the person reneges and does not keep up the oath, then kafara becomes liable, because that people must know that these are the Shi'ar of Allah, and one cannot fool around with the Shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one cannot take lightly the Shi'ar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. the mercy of Allah then comes to people in the form of the very same things becoming compulsory that they have already been revering, so that it now becomes easy for them. This is because at the basis of the deen is to make matters easy for the people. These things are then referred to as the shiar of Allah, because it is by means of that people attain proximity to Allah. See, the Shariat, we must understand one universal principle, whether it pertains to ibadat, mamlat, siyasat, iqtisadiyat, whether it pertains to the ibadat, acts of worship, whether it pertains to economics, politics, social interaction. Allah has made this Shariat very easy because it has got a universal characteristic. That is why Islam is spreading, because it is easy. Any person, any part of the world can practice upon Islam. Whether the person North Pole, South Pole, Iceland, Greenland, whether he's from Cape to Cairo, whether he's from Toronto to Timbuktu, it's very easy to practice the deen of Islam. And the most important aspects of the deen of Islam, the ibadat, etc., are even more easier. Why? Because the purpose of man is to recognize Allah and to gain proximity to Allah. So Allah has made the basis of the deen in all matters very easy for the people. And one method is that the people must respect the shiar of Allah. Once they respect and honor, love and defend and protect and revere the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then people gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Historically, we can go on and on speaking from Quran Kareem and incidents related by Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam and Sahaba Ikram radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, and the pious and the personalities who became saints overnight because they respected the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They respected the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam and Salah. And later I will discuss in detail each aspect of the Quran and the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam, with special reference to Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Salah, and how they are linked to other parts of the Sharia. And these are the four basic things, according to Shah Waliullah Delvi Rahmatullah alayhi, as stated in Hujjatullah al-Baligha and expounded in Rahmatullah al-Wasiya by Allama Mufti Saeed Palampuri, Damat Barakatuhum. So, when we respect, we will be honored. When we honor, then we'll get proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why the deen is so easy and not complicated. People are further encouraged to increase the reverence for the shiar of Allah, so that they would not violate them even by mistake. If you study Quran Kareem, you will find so many incidents, and later on I will mention them, that how in the previous Ambiyaa alayhi salam, their public mocked at the shiar of Allah, how Allah held them firmly and throttled them and punished them, which they deserve. But on the other hand, when the people respected the shiar of Allah, how Allah honored them. Now the Arabs have for centuries revered the sites of Hajj as the Kaaba, Mount Safa, Marwa, Mina, Arafat, Muzdalifah, and the three Jamarat. Allah therefore declared these places to be amongst the shiar of Allah. Safa and Marwa were declared as such when some people took exception to the sa'i between the two hills, because people had previously paid homage to the two idols Asaf and Naila that stood upon them. The two hills had always been the places of reverence, and the two idols upon them were only a temporary impurity. Once they had been removed, Sa'i was perfectly in order between the two hills, and they stood at places of reverence, just as there remained no harm in making tawaf around the Kaaba once the 360 idols had been removed from it. See, the Arabs, they revered these places which have been spoken about, and they, because of their reverence, they honored it. The story of these idols, Asaf and Naila, is most intriguing and fascinating. Asaf and Naila were these two culprits committed adultery in the Kaaba, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned them into stone. Now the people, what they had done originally, they kept it outside the Kaaba, and they knew why they had been turned into stone. So people initially despised them, and they held them in dismay and dishonored them. But as time went by and generations went on to idol worship, they, instead of holding these idols in a low position, they began to revere them and love them and honor them, to such an extent that now what they did, they lifted them up and put them one on Safa and one on Marwa as starting and ending points. So that which started as something to be detested and disliked and held abominable turned to idol worship, and people began to love and revere them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, via the Ambiyaa alayhi salam and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, educated them in the removal of shirk and kufr, removal of these 360 idols and the Asaf and Naila, which were regarded as places and idols of reverence. When they were now removed, it is absolutely now without impurity and dirt and filth, and it is absolute without any taint of kufr and shirk, and it is clean without any fiber of dirt and muck and filth of shirk and kufr and idol worship. We are now making tawaf of Kaaba and honoring the shiar of Safa and Marwa, and we are now not burdened with the elements of kufr and shirk, idol worship. We are not burdened with the 360 idols, nor burdened with Asaf and Naila. So many things from within Islam have been declared as a shiar of Allah, because the Muslims inherently regard them as sacred and were taught to revere them. Naturally, as I was explaining, automatically we love the Quran, the Kaaba, Ambiyaa alayhi salam and salat. So inherently we Muslims are inclined to love them and hold them as sacred. Examples of these include Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran, Salah, Masajid, Azan. Reverence for them has been ordained, and they are all a means of drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person loves the Quran, he goes close to Allah. He honors and reveres the Kaaba, he goes close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person loves, respects, emulates Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person loves and performs and honors Salah, he goes near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has not declared these things to be shiar for his benefit, because Allah needs to do nothing for personal gain. We are in need of Allah. Allah is not in need of us. Allah is not in need of us. The commands he issues are all for the sole benefit of mankind. Without the due and utmost reverence for the shiar of Allah, man will be unable to attain the perfection he aspires for. Every person wants to become spiritually elevated, and he wants to gain proximity to Allah. And the formula is that we should revere the shiar of Allah, and these are for our benefit. We will go near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The majority have been taken into consideration with the implementation of the Sharia. This is another basic, simple principle, that Shariat is universal. Therefore, it is easy. And because the majority are taken into consideration for the implementation of the Shariat, it is very simple, simplified and easy, not difficult, not tedious. It must be borne in mind that through His mercy and grace, Allah has not kept only one person in mind when He revealed the Sharia, but He took the majority into consideration. Therefore, when classifying what the shiar of Allah are to be, Allah has also taken into consideration the feelings of the majority. It could therefore not matter whether there are few people who are not at ease with the matter in question or the Sharia. Now what we understand, very simply, that the shiar, the signs of Allah, the hallmarks of Allah, the symbols of Allah, and the commands of Allah. So the shiar are the signs and the hallmarks and the commands of Allah for a Muslim. Then people gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And failing to venerate causes chastisement, causes the wrath, and causes the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we do not revere and honor and respect the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we should get ready for the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the coming series, I will explain how previous nations were destroyed and annihilated and punished and chastised for disrespecting the shiar of Allah, and how, let alone previous nation, in our current history, the activities that happened in Turkey and India and other places, when the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was tampered with and disrespected, then how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished these people, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He destroyed these people. And in our own time, we are able to see the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's statements, that when you disrespect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shiar, that the punishment of Allah descends very swiftly. And when you respect the shiar of Allah, then proximity to Allah, nearness to Allah, happiness of Allah, the mala'ika ala, the angels which are near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they become pleased and happy, and they report the favorable conditions of the Muslim who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shiar, and they report to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's servants are honoring Him, respecting Him to such an extent that the person gains a proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is our endeavor that we should love, respect the shiar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we will gain His proximity. So deen is very easy, Shariat is very easy, and it is allowing us to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any tedious path, without any difficult path. We are able to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala grant us ability to be with Iman, stay with Iman, live with Iman, die with Iman, and be resurrected with Iman amongst the Ambiyaa alayhi salam, and the Siddiqeen, and the Shuhada, and the Salihin. May Allah ta'ala grant us ability to pass away with the kalima La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah on our lips. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Yes, 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 yes.